SOPIPA, the Student Online Personal Information Protection Act enacted by California. What is SOPIPA? SOPIPA is a California law that prohibits on and after January 1st, 2016, mobile or online service providers from using student information to target advertisements to students. It also prohibits online service providers from creating student profiles for commercial purposes and forbids companies from selling student information. The key law in SOPIPA is that the responsibility for ensuring the privacy of student data relies on the industry. Okay? It also provides for the security of that data from the service providers by implementing and maintaining reasonable security procedures and practices appropriate to the nature of covered information. Covered information is information that could identify a student with a particular school or school district, such as name, date of birth, address, telephone number, email, or student ID number. Okay? That security needs to protect that information from unauthorized access, destruction, use, modification, or disclosure of that information. Okay? Deletion of such information is covered by SOPIPA if the school or district requests deletion of data under the control of the school or district, meaning a school or district can ask a vendor to delete their student information from their system if they wish to do so. Why is it in place? It is in place to balance the promise of digital learning technologies with concerns about the privacy and security of children's sensitive information. It is also in place to make sure businesses do not use student data for non-educational purposes. It is also in place to stop the selling of student data to third-party vendors for non-educational purposes. The law does allow for the use of this data by companies if that information is de-identified and if it's used to improve their own services. So how can an organization come or stay compliant? Operators are allowed to maintain and use de-identified or anonymous student information to develop and improve their own educational products and services. Operators are allowed to share de-identified or anonymous student data information. Okay. The best way to stay or come compliant is to review, as a service provider, your existing agreements with subcontractors and consider amending and existing and or future contracts to require subcontractors to comply with SOPIPA.
Hey everyone, my name is Jaime Gonzalez and I will be presenting FERPA. FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. What is FERPA? FERPA is a federal law that protects the privacy of student educational records. The law applies to all schools that receive funds under the U.S. Department of Education. Why is FERPA in place? It is in place so parents can have the rights to their children's educational records. They have the right to inspect and review the student's educational records at any time. They have the right to request that a school correct records which they believe to be inaccurate or misleading. Schools must have written permission from parent or eligible student to release any type of information, such as photos, videos, database information, audio, names, address, social security numbers, etc. Also, if a parent were to request their records, their child's records, the school does have to respond within 45 days. How schools can stay compliant on a year-to-year basis with FERPA? Schools can stay compliant by giving parents and eligible students a reasonable amount of time to decide whether the school can disclose directory information about them, notifying parents and eligible students annually of their rights under FERPA. Staying compliant is obtaining any kind of signed written permission form from the student parent before sharing any kind of educational record information. And this could be done at the beginning of the year, as many schools do. And whether the parent signs yes or no. It really doesn't matter as long as the school is compliant and receiving that information, then they know what they can or cannot post about that student. And also, they can stay compliant by only disclosing educational records to school officials who have a legitimate educational interest. Never post student papers, scores, or grades in public places. Instead of names, use codes that students will know. That way they could still see their post without giving it to the public, giving their information to the public. And also disclosing any kind of educational records to school officials. That includes administration, so leadership, whether it's for research, or it could also be given to supervisors, any kind of academic and support staff. And these are my resources for FERPA that I utilize to research and obtain my information. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Lexi Nielsen reporting on the Child Internet Protection Act, also known as CIPA. CIPA is a bill passed by Congress that requires K-12 schools and libraries to implement measures to protect children from being exposed to harmful content online if they are to receive federal funding for their organization. This federal funding comes from a program called E-Rate. E-Rate is the commonly used name for the Schools and Libraries program of the Universal Service Fund, which is administered by the Universal Service Administration Company under the direction of the FCC. The program provides discounts to assist schools and libraries in the United States to obtain affordable telecommunications, devices, hardware, and internet access. Schools and libraries must certify that they are in compliance with CIPA before they can receive E-Rate funding. CIPA was put into place to protect children from being exposed to harmful, offensive, or inappropriate content when utilizing the internet at public schools and libraries. It was initially enacted by Congress in 2000 to address concerns about children's access to obscene or harmful content over the internet. In early 2001, the FCC issued rules implementing CIPA and provided updates to those rules in 2011. E-Rate schools and libraries can apply for funds for devices, hardware, internet access, etc. for students to connect to 21st century learning opportunities. In order to become or stay CIPA compliant and to receive funding, the organization must install filters and firewalls for blocking out inappropriate sites online. They must also adopt an internet safety policy. CIPA requires that organizations must have a policy to provide for the education of students regarding appropriate online behavior by July of 2012. The internet safety policy must address access to minors to inappropriate matter on the internet, the safety and security of minors when using email, chat rooms, and other forms of direct electronic communications, unauthorized access including hacking and other unlawful activities by minors online, unauthorized disclosure, use, and dissemination of personal information regarding minors, and measures restricting minors' access to materials harmful to them. There are other policies put into place to maintain CIPA compliancy. For example, under CIPA, before a child may get a library card, a parent must come to the library with the child to determine how much, if any, internet access they are allowed to use. The child's library card number provides them with this access to Wi-Fi. Additionally, people using the public library internet access must abide by the guidelines of CIPA and not use the wireless network for inappropriate use. The deadline for compliance with CIPA was July 1, 2004, following the Supreme Court ruling in 2003. When looking into how local schools and districts are accomplishing this, I discovered that the San Diego County Office of Ed and Juvenile Court and Community Schools outlined these compliancy requirements in their acceptable use policy. In the San Diego Unified School District, information on CIPA compliance was located in their Information Technology Team site. At my organization, a local Catholic school, internet safety guidelines and CIPA compliance requirements were outlined in our acceptable use policy and also in the school handbook. Here are some of the resources that I found helpful in my research on the Child Internet Protection Act. I hope you find them helpful as well. Thank you.